Welcome all sports fans, YouTubers, Facebookers, all social media across the nation. Uneducated Network on YouTube presents Uneducated Sports Talk. I'm your host, Clayton, and before we get into our NBA preview or review, of games 2 through 5, let's please like and subscribe to Uneducated Network to where you can see my show and many other shows on our channel. We're more than just a YouTube channel; we are a way of life. That being said, let's get into the NBA. So far, I told you guys, this is going to be the craziest playoffs we had in a long time. And right now, it is living up to be one of the greatest playoffs ever. The U is not being, there we go. That's a whole lot better. The playoffs is living up to expectations. This is the first time it's been kind of wide open to who's going to win the championship. We have a contender against Golden State, which is Houston. The East is wide open. Philly's emerging. Cavaliers could still be that dark horse team. Well, Philly's a dark horse team. Cavaliers could be that team. We don't know what's going on, but so far, so good. Now, I did my predictions, and I had pretty much every series going 6 or 7 games in the first round. Obviously, you could be wrong about something. There is a sweep. Let's start off with that. And it's Portland versus New Orleans. And no, it is not the Portland Trailblazers. The New Orleans Pelicans sweep the Trailblazers. 4-0 straight up sweep. And this game had me in awe. This series had me in awe, excuse me. You knew that Anthony Davis was going to bring it. But you always thought the next two best players on that court was going to be Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. Now, there's a reason why they paid Drew Holiday 5 years, I believe $140 million. I was one of the guys saying that's a lot of money. It's a lot of money for a guy who I didn't think was worth it. Well, now he's proven to me that he is worth that money. Playoff Rajon Rondo, I don't know why I said his name backwards, but playoff Rajon Rondo is here, and he's not going anywhere right now unless he gets injured like last year. But he is proving that with him on the court, he makes a big difference. He's had double-digit assists all 4 games. Now, I have not seen Game 5 of Philadelphia versus Miami, and I haven't seen Game 5 of Golden State versus San Antonio, so we're not going to include those games. But Portland, New Orleans, Portland was straight up just punked the whole entire series. They shut down Damian Lillard, 18 points per game. Who does that? Drew Holiday has shown that he is probably one of the best two-way players, both offensively and defensively, and he is doing damage. Not only just shutting Damian Lillard down to 18 points per game, you can also give credit to Rajon Rondo as well. They're a great defensive guard tandem for that team. But then as well, he's scoring almost more than 28 points per game in the clinching game. Anthony Davis, 47 points, but Drew Holiday, 41 points. That is unheard of these days, where two guys on the same team both score 40 in the clinching game to, basically win the series. New Orleans, hey, I'm happy for those guys, and it's almost like, Anthony Davis didn't get his first victory in the playoffs ever till now. It's almost like, but once you get that taste of victory, you want more, and then it becomes a habit, and it gets better and better. I mean, he waited 6 years to get his first victory. New Orleans might be a scary team for this next opponent. Golden State versus San Antonio. They're up 3-1. Now, we all heard the horrible news, the passing of Greg Popovich's wife, Aaron Popovich, and we are, our condolences from Uneducated Network and Uneducated Sports Talk. Our condolences to Greg Popovich and his family. And that's a tough time. This is right before Game 3. The Spurs had to play Game 3 at home without Greg Popovich. And, of course, in that game, it was just tough to really think about anything going on. They lose 116-101 to the Golden State Warriors. But they redeemed themselves in Game 4. Manu Ginobili stepped up, LaMarcus Aldridge stepped up, and they got it done, but that's where it comes to an end. Golden State is pretty much going to win Game 5. Golden State has to win Game 5. I mean, if they don't win Game 5, then things might start tilting the Spurs' way. You just never know. Seeing too many, good feeling stories come out of this. So Golden State should take care of that and win that series to face New Orleans, but that's going to be a matchup to talk about when it does happen. Oklahoma City versus the Utah Jazz. This one, I really thought OKC was going to win. I believe in 6, I said. I thought OKC would, pull off a victory on the road, but no, with the Utah Jazz that have pulled off a victory on the road in Game 2 and now they've won both their home games, 3-1. This series is physical. About as good as Philadelphia versus Miami. I'm loving it. I'm enjoying it right now. We all know Russell Westbrook came out and said he's gonna, shut Ricky Rubio down because he had a fantastic game in Game 3, a triple-double. The crowd was going crazy. That crowd is intense, and the way it's looking like, I don't think Utah will ever lose another home game this series. That crowd is amazing. They have so many physical things going on. Joe Ingles versus Paul George. You love that about playoff basketball because every possession is big. Every possession counts. Every dribble, everything you do, every play, every play you run, it all counts for something. And these guys know it. Russell Westbrook is not looking like Russell Westbrook of we're used to. He seems kind of shook up. I don't know what's going on with him, but so far Donovan Mitchell is going to be a star. We know that 33 points in game four. He's going to be a star. Ricky Rubio is showing how good he is. The Jazz are a scary team, very scary. Up 3-1. I see OKC winning game five, and then I see the Jazz pull off in game six to move on to the second round to face this opponent. Houston Rockets are up 3-1 against the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're up 2-0 going into Minnesota, and Minnesota had a great game in game three, and then it all turned around in the second half of game four. It was a tight, contested game in game four in the first half. Then the Rockets put up 50 points in one quarter, 50 points in the third quarter to annihilate the Minnesota Timberwolves. They want to win 119-100 in game four, which basically is going to be the end of the series. I thought that could go seven because I thought Minnesota would win their home games. It's looking like it might go five now. Houston, it's a no-brainer that Houston's going to win at home, I believe, wholeheartedly. James Harden in this particular game showed out 22 points in that third quarter by himself. Winning game two, he struggled 2 for 18. Chris Paul had his back, and then in game three, he kind of struggled as well. So it's nice to know when Houston is at their best, when all these teams are at their very, 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 very best, I think Houston can beat anybody. I think Houston the best at their best, if you know what I'm saying. Golden State at their best versus Houston at their best, I'm going with Houston. Just throwing it out there. But Houston is up 3-1 and looking to go 4-1 to advance and probably face the Utah Jazz. And that'll be serious. We'll talk about if that comes down to it. So that's done with the Western Conference. Let's go to the Eastern Conference right now. And the East is about as tight as it is going to get. Boston versus Milwaukee. We'll talk about that. That is tied at 2. Both teams winning home games. And I said earlier, this might go 7. And I'm believing it's going 7. And I'm going with Boston just because Boston is the home team. I mean, the higher seeded team. Boston and Milwaukee is a great game. This is also becoming a little physical as well, a little chippy, just a little bit. Both teams don't have any, but besides Antetokounmpo, there are no stars on this team, on each team right now. We all know Kyrie's gone. We all know there's no Gordon Hayward. But we do know there's a star on the bench. His name is Brad Stevens, and he's the reason why Boston's going to win this series because of his coaching. He's a great coach, come with great scenarios. And they almost put it off in Game 4. Came up that close, lost 104-102 to the Bucks game 4. So it could easily be 3-1 Boston going back to Boston, but it's not. It's 2-2, and Milwaukee's going to take that any day of the week. I'm looking for the series to go down to the wire. Game 7, I think Boston wins Game 5, Milwaukee wins Game 6, Boston wins Game 7. That's kind of scenario. You know what I'm talking about. And whoever wins that is pretty much going to probably face this team here, the Philadelphia 76ers. Like I said, I have not seen Game 5 yet, so I cannot comment on that. I don't know if they clinched or not. But Philadelphia is up 3-1 against Miami. And this series has taken turn after turn. This is the most physical series in here. And it is a good thing. Whoever comes out of this series, I believe, is going to go to the Eastern Conference Finals and might make it to the finals. Now, I had Miami winning this in 6. I really did. It all depends on Joel Embiid. And Joel Embiid has come back. What happened was the Sixers won in Game 1, wide score. Miami came back, counteracted, and punked the Sixers out in Game 2. I mean, really punked them out pretty much and beat them up, roughed them up, and it showed that the 76ers couldn't hang. Well, Joel Embiid said, you know what, my guys won 17 in a row, including the playoffs, without me, and now we lost that game, and it's time for me to come and put my physical presence into this Game 3, excuse me. So that is what he did. And oh my, 23.7 rebounds in Game 3. Game 4, not big on stats, but 5 blocks, and his defensive presence is always going to be there. This tells you how good Joel Embiid is. He is struggling offensively. He's struggling. No one's saying it, but he is struggling. He's struggling in Game 4. He's struggling in Game 3. When he gets the ball one-on-one in the block, the mask is messing with him. I know it is. The mask is horrible, and he hates it, and I hate that he has to wear it, but he kind of has to wear it because of a major orbital injury to, in that area. You don't want to mess that up. So him on a block one-on-one is not looking very good, but his impact is so much more than offense. They really don't need him on offense. They need him on defense, and he has showed up and showed out for them. It's almost like when you got that big brother who's gone away in the army, or the big brother that's gone away out of town, and the little brother's getting beat up by the neighborhood kids, and he said, wait till my brother gets back. The brother comes back, and the little brother says, hey, big brother, I need your help. They trying to punk me, whatever. Big brother comes down. Who messes with my little brother? Everybody scatters away. Oh, we don't want to mess with him. That's Joel Embiid to the Philadelphia 76ers. That's him. That is his guys. He is the leader of the physicality group. He loves contact. He said it. He's going to be a nightmare for this team, and he has been a nightmare. Hassan Whiteside, I just don't know where he's been at. When you're getting paid, 5 years, $100 million like he did, you got to show up. And he's only averaging probably 15 minutes per game on average. So game 5, I'm looking for Philadelphia to take that and go and win the series 4-1. But never know. Miami's a tough, gritty team because Miami know they're not better than Philadelphia. But they can do is out physical you, outwork you, out hustle you, and get you thinking mentally. But as of right now, it is a great test for the Philadelphia 76ers because Miami is probably the toughest, roughest team in this playoffs. So if they get done with that, then you play Boston that isn't that rough, or Milwaukee team, and you go ahead and play maybe Toronto or Cleveland. You never know; those teams are really rough and tough. Speaking of Toronto, let's go on with them. We haven't even mentioned Toronto and Washington. Washington is up there, and they're both tied at 2. Who would have thought it? Toronto could have easily been up 3-1 in Game 4, but they made some mistakes, and they go back to their isolation kind of basketball, which does not work for them at all. So they should have been up 3-1 going into Game 5, but they're not. It's tied at 2. I think Toronto will still win this game in 7 because Washington is not your typical 8 seed, and same as the West, the Timberwolves aren't your typical 8 seed. So it is what it is. But Washington at one point with 3rd seed, 4th seed, and they're looking like one of the better teams. Where you add them now, John Wall, Bradley Beal, these guys, it's the playoffs, and you can't take anything for granted. And Toronto took Game 4 for granted. They had a chance to win. Bradley Beal even fouled out late towards the game, and they could not close the deal. Washington came back, and they won Game 4. It's tied at 2, going back to Air Canada Center. So I'm excited for that matchup right there. I can see Washington stealing this, though. Washington can easily steal a Game 5 on the road. I can see that Toronto is not the best number 1 seed in the world. They're not. They're not world beaters. So it's going to be very interesting to where this series goes because, this is the make or break year for Toronto. They have to get it. If not, this has been all pretty much for nothing, to be honest. And I don't want that to happen for the Toronto Raptors because you got Kyle Lowry, you got DeMar DeRozan, you got those 2 studs, and now you finally had a clique around you who can make things happen. And hope they can get past this first round because if they don't get past this first round, this team might get blown up. In the last series, probably the most interesting series right now, Cleveland versus Indiana, the Cavaliers versus Pacers. That is tied at 2. Each team has won a road game and a home game, so where it's tied at 2, and now it's going back to Cleveland for Game 5. All these games have been close besides Game 1. LeBron scores 46 points in Game 2, and they still only win by 3. The Cavaliers up by 17 in Game 3, lose it, and the Pacers win by 92. Cavaliers up by 15 in Game 4, Pacers come back, but then Cleveland takes over and wins it. So, this is going to be back and forth. Oladipo, I think he's putting too much on his shoulders, too much on it, especially in that 4th quarter for Game 4. They had a chance to make things happen, and they did not. Oladipo had a chance, but he kept shooting too much. Instead of running offense, he was going one-on-one a little too much. And sometimes being the man or people are saying things about you that you never really heard before, like he's the guy, he's the superstar, he's the all-star, he's the man of the team. And now you hear that on a national level, it kind of gets in your head. And there's a few possessions. He went like 5 possessions in a row just shooting like bad jumpers while running offense late towards that 4th quarter, which hurt the Pacers because that is not how they go. I see the Cavaliers winning the next 2 games in Cleveland and winning in Indianapolis, winning the series 4-2 to face maybe a Toronto Raptors team, maybe a Washington Wizards team. We don't know. All in all, this has been a great playoffs. This first round has been amazing, and I can see a lot of these games going 6 and 7, and I have no problem with that. That's just more TV, more time to watch basketball, right? No one has a problem with that at all. So I am very happy for this playoffs. Comment down below. Who do you guys have going to the next round? And who do you think has a chance to win the NBA Finals? Who's going to the Finals? I want to know all that. So let me know down below in your comments. Hey, check out my next episode tomorrow. I will be having my last mock draft before the 2018 NFL draft comes on Thursday. So be ready for that tomorrow, which is going to be Wednesday. I will have my mock draft ready for you guys. So I'm excited to do that. I know you guys are excited for me to do that. And I got a couple more surprises that you haven't heard of. So stay tuned for that. That being said, this is Uneducated Sports Talk being presented by Uneducated Network. I'm your host, Carlos Clayton. As always, sports fans, you know what time it is. Stay smart, stay uneducated. Peace.